We'll open with words from Psalm 23. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, binotesha yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenahaleni, nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'maglei tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki elech begeitz hamavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yenachamoni, taroch lefanai shochan neged sororai dishanta v'shemen roshi, kosir vaya. Achtov v'chesed, Yerdefuni kol yemei chayai, v'shapti b'veit Adonai la'orech yamim. Please join with me in the words of Psalm 23 in the English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We gather here this afternoon to celebrate a full life, a life well lived, and to share wonderful memories of Lewis Taylor, of Papa Lou, a beloved son, brother, husband, father, grandfather, and friend. Our Bible teaches these words from the book of Ecclesiastes, L'kol zaman ve'et, l'kol chefetz tachat hashamayim. There's a season set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for planting and a time for reaping, a time for keeping and a time for discarding, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for embracing and a time for refraining, a time for laughing and a time for weeping, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for speaking, a time for silence, a time for seeking, and a time for losing. The rabbis teach that, as we said, this should be a day of celebration. The rabbis compare our lives to that of a ship. Now, when a ship leaves a harbor, if you've ever been on a cruise ship, it usually leaves with much fanfare. Bands play, there are parades, maybe balloons are let out. It's a great celebration. But the rabbis say this is not necessarily a time to celebrate, because no one knows what storms, what challenges, what obstacles lay ahead in the path of that ship as it journeys. But the rabbis say that when a ship returns home, that is the time to celebrate. Oftentimes those ships, when they come home, just the porters come out to take the cargo and the bags, right? There are no bands playing when that ship returns home. Everyone sort of scurries on their way off. But the rabbis say it's when that ship returns home safely. That is time to celebrate. And they say the same should be for us, that when a person returns home, when a person dies, we should offer thanks and say they have departed from the world with a good name and returned home in peace. And so we can say, after living a full life of 102 and a half years, I have to say that again, 102 and a half years, Lou has returned home with a good name and in peace. He's returned to his beloved wife, Sylvia, with whom he built his family. He returns to his grandson, Richard, gone so young. He returns to his parents, Jenny and Harry. He returns to his 5 sisters, May, Rosie, Annie, Peggy, and Bay. He joins them all in their eternal home in heaven. Lou leaves many behind in mourning. His children, Jane and Roger, Howard and Deborah. His grandchildren, the apples of his eye, Scotty and Jeffrey, and many adoring nieces and nephews. Lou was sharp as a tack, even to these last days. He missed nothing, even as his vision had started to fail. He was filled with love and care for all that he knew. His beloved Sylvia was the love of his life. They had an incredible relationship. He was a bit old-fashioned, well, maybe because he lived for more than a century, but family for Lou was always first. He taught responsibility. He taught respect. He was a bit of a homebody, became a bit of that caricatured old man curmudgeon in his later years. Lou worried a lot. In fact, it seemed like he wasn't happy if he wasn't worrying about you. Honest to a fault, Lou was not always the most tactful, but he loved you, and you knew it. The family knows how lucky they are to have had him in their lives for so long. He loved golf. He had the thrill of hitting a hole-in-one. He played golf and he drove his car until his 90s. He was very close to all the family, most especially the Phoenix family, his sister Bay's family, spending every winter with them in Phoenix and becoming so close with Ellen and Eddie Goldman, his niece and nephew. He had many names. At work he was known as Flash, probably because he wasn't the fastest. He was Lou, Grandpa, and he later simply became known as Papa Lou. Born in Liverpool, England, his family had left Russia and then made their way to New York City, where young Lou panhandled, and then finally made their way to Cleveland, all 6 children. Growing up in the Depression, Lou hitchhiked across the country seeking work and even spent a night in jail in Las Vegas when he was picked up as a vagrant. He eventually found his way back to Cleveland, and the family set him up with a beautiful young woman, Sylvia Fishman. It was an incredible match. They were married on January 31st, 1937, married for 42 years until her death too young in 1979. They loved dancing together and being with family. Sylvia spoiled him rotten. She'd never let him eat alone, even though with his work schedule, if you don't know and you'll hear later, he went to bed very early because he woke up very early. She'd iron everything for him, even his underwear and hankies. Lou came first, she came second. They loved being with family, the Taylor and Fishman families all together. They didn't need to pay for entertainment. They entertained themselves, and they loved just spending time together, especially with their best friends, Eddie and Evelyn Weissman, and their daughter, Sharon, who's here. Lou began working at his brother-in-law Jack's produce business, Shore Weintraub and Fishman, at the Ohio Food Terminal at 30th and Woodland, selling produce there until 1980. He worked hard. He needed to be downtown at 2:30 in the morning every day. The kids remember when they'd come home from school, Dad would already be home from work, relaxing in his undershorts or pajamas. He was a wonderful dad, a very good father, a bit old school, preaching you to take care of family first and to watch your finances. He was a bit overprotective. Jane, you shared with me that first date with Roger you had when you were 15 years old, that Lou would watch over you, Roger, making sure there was no funny business. But over the years, Roger, you became buddies with Lou. You'd take him out, and you did everything for him. Driving out to the fish market, you got whatever he asked for. And that's really all that a father-in-law could ask for. Jane, you told me that Dad spoiled you. You got whatever you wanted. You had skirts for every single day of the week, while your brother Howard may have only had 2 pairs of pants. You told me how much Dad loved you, and he really spoiled you, and you said there was only one time growing up that Dad got angry and had to spank you. And you remember that Dad was crying more than you were. And you asked him why, and he said, "You don't know how much this is hurting me." And Howard remembers how one time he fell out of bed, and it was Dad who ran out to check on you, except he ran into a door and had to get stitches. You remember getting into trouble one time for taking a few pennies from Mom's purse in order to buy candy. Mom was always checking her money, so she figured it out, and you knew punishment was coming. She said, "Just wait until your father comes home." Well, Lou came home. He took you into the bedroom, closed the door, and then he whispered to you, "When I hit the bed, make a really loud scream." And he started banging the bed, and you were fake screaming. He couldn't punish you because he loved both of you so much. He did teach you the importance of watching your finances. When you were both older and still living at home, he'd say, "If you live in my house, you follow my rules." Jane, you didn't exactly like that rule, so he said, "Okay, you can start paying rent." And you did. But he saved that money that you paid him. And when you married Roger, Dad used all of that rent money that you paid, that he had saved, to get you an incredible wedding present, your sterling silver set. And Howard, when you were living at home in your mid-20s, Dad said it was time to start paying room and board, laundry service, and health insurance. It was $35 a month. I think you got a good deal. You did pay Dad, and Dad did the same. He saved it all, and when you married Deborah, he gave it back, all of it, to you. Oh, how he loved the grandchildren. They were his everything. With each of their births, starting with Richard and then Scotty and Jeffrey, he started their own bank accounts, putting in $2. Every week he'd put in money. On birthdays and other special occasions, he'd make larger deposits into the account. It was important for him to save up for college. He thought he was going to pay for all of college with that, but he wanted to make sure that you had a proper education. It didn't pay for college fully, but I know that you all appreciated the help and the love that he gave. Lou loved his grandsons. He took them to the amusement parks when they were little and just loved spending time with you. And as they were grown in later years, Jeffrey, who lives in Seattle, would come in and out of town just to spend special time with Grandpa. And Scotty, you would regularly visit your grandfather, and you had a very important job. You stocked the beer in his refrigerator. You made sure he always had enough Heinekens. And so if that's our worst vice, it's okay. As I said, he enjoyed having one beer a day. It went down to half a beer at some point. He loved going out to Jack's for breakfast. He loved keeping his apartment at 900 degrees. He loved playing his TV at the loudest volume possible. He'd be watching a golf tournament or a classic old-time movie and having one of his aides describe what was happening. I know he couldn't see, but he couldn't hear too. I don't know. He was a voracious reader. He would read newspapers and books. He always followed politics. And when he reached that incredible century mark, 100 years, you put on the best party for him. You even got a proclamation from the mayor of Lyndhurst and a special note from President Obama marking that incredible day. Lou and Sylvia were the second tenants to move into Sherry Park Apartments. They loved it there. Sylvia was the unofficial social director. Lou was a little bit more private, independent, and kept to himself, though. The family is very grateful for the wonderful care provided by their aides, who really become part of the family. To Fanny, to Lee, and to Vida, who did everything for Lou, being with him for more than 6 years. I know they're very appreciative of that. And Jane, you visited Dad every single day, spent time with him. Very devoted daughter. Lou always remained strong thanks to the love and support of each of you. You've been by his side all along the way, celebrating a full life of 102 and a half years. You've done everything for him, making sure he knew that he was still the patriarch, making him laugh, telling him old and new stories, simply holding his hand and telling him, "I love you." You should surely know how much he loved each of you, and I'm certain he knew how much you loved him. Today we can surely say that Lou is at peace. He'll be missed by family and friends, but like that ship, he has returned home safely. Yehi zichrono baruch. May his name always be for a blessing, and we say, Amen. We'll rise now for the memorial prayer. El mare rachamim shochem bamromim amatze menucha nachona tachan kanfei ashchina bemalot kiroshim otorim kizorak yamasidim et nishmat Louis shalak leolamo began eden te menuchato Anna barachamim astire besedek nevakali olamim utra b'tzrokai menishmato aronayo nachalato V'yanok b'shalom mishkavo v'namar. Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure. To the soul of Lewis Taylor who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he merit the reward from living a life filled with righteousness, and may he rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. Following our service, interment will take place at Mount Olive Cemetery. The family will then receive friends at his residence, 2201 Acacia Park Drive, number 122. I'm assuming that's in Sherry Park, in Lyndhurst. Today, following the burial, and the family will be also receiving Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 5 and 7 to 9, and Monday evening from 7 to 9 p.m. Contributions are suggested in his memory to the Home Health Gift Care Fund at Menorah Park. May the all-loving and compassionate God bring you comfort and bring Lou peace. May his memories remain in your hearts forever and continue to inspire us. And we say, Amen.